turn now to this drama in Canberra, a dramatic day in politics, a broken promise by the Prime Minister. The government, his government, feels that they can win this debate, but this is the frame now, right until the next election, the next 18 months is all about cost of living and these particular tax cuts. Let's go live to our political editor, Andrew Clennell. Andrew, as we like to say, these sorts of stories, they're good for business, good for journalism, because they are really interesting to see how this is going to be navigated by the Prime Minister. It's chips in, but really it is such a clear broken promise. On so many occasions, he said that stage 3 would be delivered untouched.
What is it about the Australia Day period? I mean, Tony Abbott knighted Prince Philip. I reckon this is an equal gamble from Anthony Albanese. That is because we have established that, according to our information, Anthony Albanese is set to take half the tax cuts off top earners. Have a look at this. We gave you the tax brackets that we understand it to be last hour. We believe those to be correct. If that's the case, you are going to be worse off by $4,418 if you earn 190 grand than you would have been under stage 3. So you'll still get a tax cut of $4,657, but you'll be worse off by $4,418. However, if you earn between $45,000 and $135,000, you'll be better off by $932. Now, I've crunched these numbers. I've done it with the assistance of respected economist Chris Richardson. And the implication is this package might not be revenue neutral. It might cost Treasury a little, or the government a little bit more. And here's the brackets. Here's the change up. So the tax-free threshold goes from $18,200 to $19,000. So you get $100 or whatever there. Then it goes from $19,000 to $45,000. It was 19%, becomes 16%. So you get yourself $780 a year, should I say, extra there. And then you have 30% from $45,000 to $135,000, and $135,000 to $190 remains at 37%, although that used to be $180. It used to go up to 45%. Under the proposal, it was set to go up to $200. Doesn't matter. What matters to people is how much money they're going to get. You're going to get about $20 extra a week if you earn between $45,000 and $135,000 a year under these changes, Kieran. You're going to get $932 a year. You're going to get $20 extra a week. But if you are on $190,000 or more, and we're expecting $9,000 a year in terms of a tax cut, then you are going to be getting $4,418 less than is currently legislated. And here was the Prime Minister defending this broken promise this morning.
My job isn't to say, oh, I'll just wring my hands about cost of living pressure that people are feeling. My job is to respond, to seek advice, and then to make a difference.
And here is the broken promise.
I can confirm that we haven't changed our position.
We have no change to our plans. Tax cuts will happen in July.
We haven't changed our position. I've said we haven't changed our position. We haven't changed our position on the stage 3 tax cuts. We have not changed our position on stage 3 tax cuts. They've been legislated. We support them. Our position hasn't changed.
Okay, well, our position hasn't changed as funny language. It can change. There are other comments by Anthony Albanese which are stronger than that, like the one we showed you yesterday to Kieran saying people deserve that certainty. That's more of a killer blow than that one, I have to say. But this is the other interesting thing. They're out there. It's probably from focus groups talking about Middle Australia, Middle Australia, Middle Australia. Well, you might recall if you watched our budget coverage last year, I said there wasn't much for Middle Australia or enough in the October budget. Jim Chalmers slapped me down at the Press Club press conference after that. And this is what they did after the October budget and the days after that, because the research probably told them what anyone could figure out.
The budget is all about cost of living relief in Middle Australia. Support Middle Australia. Support for Middle Australia was absolutely central to support people in Middle Australia. Substantial help for Middle Australia.
It was aimed squarely at Middle Australia. Nothing says Middle Australia like making it cheaper to see a doctor. Middle Australia, Middle Australia, Middle Australia, Middle Australia.
So one of the questions we have here, Kieran, is what is the definition of Middle Australia? Because in Sydney, for one, I reckon it's a different definition than it is in Hobart.
Yeah, absolutely. The government, the Prime Minister, we put it in terms earlier that they're putting all their chips in on this, and I don't think it's overstating it, is it? This is such a critical decision by the government, one that the Treasurer internally has been arguing for many, many months. He has got his way in the end, but the next election, I don't think it's overstating it to say will come down to who wins this debate.
Well, the interesting aspect too is that a policy like this might work in the by-election of Dunkley. So is the whole nation having to cop the government trying to win a critical by-election in Dunkley in terms of the force of this change? I think to halve the tax cut for top earners, I guess the government would argue because there's more lower to middle income earners, they had to make it that big. But still, you can see the contrast there. And of course, it's about the volume of taxpayers in the brackets. There's a lot more taxpayers in those earlier brackets, but they're traditionally voting Labor. Those earning 190, a lot of them last election turned to Labor. So that's the other interesting thing which must be making the member for Higgins, the member for Tangney and other electorates pretty nervous. But you can see there, just the raw figures there. You're losing $4,000 at the top end a year. You're gaining $1,000 at the bottom end a year, which is $20 a week. Now, $20 a week, if you're on low and middle income, that's great. Is it going to swing votes Labor's way? Or are more votes going to go against Labor's way because they've broken a promise and because they've hit some people who've started to vote for them at the top end, Kieran?